Hello, my name is Leslie Strose. I live in Devon, England. I'm an artist and an illustrator. I've been creating art for as long as I can remember, and I was very fortunate to have parents who really supported that for me and for my brother. I remember when I was 6 years old, my mother must have seen something. She paid for my brother and I to have private oil painting lessons with a retired illustrator who lived nearby. I was very lucky to be able to study with him for 6 years, going to his studio every Saturday morning and painting with him there. I think in some ways, in retrospect, I learned more from that man than all of my other teachers combined. And I still remember many of the lessons that he taught. But I continued to create art through school and through high school and then into university. Unfortunately, although I was studying art at university, it was during the era of modern art where the teachers were more interested in your concept and not as interested in teaching you the ability to be able to achieve that concept. So they would tell you things like, give me a painting of your dream, but I didn't have all the skills to be able to create that painting. So for me, that led to a quest of higher learning through studying with different artists in workshops. And in many ways, most of my learning is from that. Although I have 2 degrees in art, most of my learning came from working with real artists in my lifetime. And so I became a university art professor for many years. It was a quest for me to be able to articulate everything I had learned and put it into a curriculum to teach other artists and other students. And so that became, in many ways, a way for me to improve my own art as well. And so for a long time, I just identified myself as being an art professor. And it wasn't really until 2016 when I was vacationing with my family, and we went to a plein air festival, which is a painting in the open air, and I saw all of these artists who were professional artists, and they were painting the scenes in front of them, these beautiful paintings, and I just felt like I'd found my people. And the public responded to those paintings and purchased them and supported those artists. And so that really changed everything for me. So my identity went from not just being somebody who creates art and teaches art very well to being an artist who also teaches other people to become an artist as well. I also, since I've started painting more outside, I find that they're almost a diary of my life. I can look at any painting that I've done, that I created outside, and I remember everything about that day. I remember the weather, if it was cold or if it was warm, if it was windy, if it was, if there were sounds that were very specific, if it was rainy. And so I like that they're almost like a living diary of mine. So the themes in my art, they're not bombastic. They're nothing precious or incredibly meaningful the way many artists are. To me, I find great meaning in painting the world around me. So for instance, these fields outside of my studio, they've just approved to build 1,200 houses on those hills and the hills around them, and it's going to drastically change the landscape. So I'm drawn to drawing and painting those hills because they're not going to be like that in even another 10 years. And so those are the things that drive me, just to show my life and share it with other people and record just the simple things in my simple life for, you know, my future grandchildren or great-grandchildren or anybody who's interested, really. And so for me, the meaning in my art is just to record the landscape that I see, to record the buildings, and to preserve those things, and to do them in a way that hopefully reflects the way that I feel about them, the love that I have for them. So I choose a scene that moves me in some way in the hope that it might touch other people as well in the same way. I don't think there's any great message to anything that I create. I feel very humble about my art. I create things that move me, that I find beautiful. I'll look the way the light catches something, or the way a building looks, or a scene in a village. Those are the types of things that just, they really excite me, and I want to record them. And I want to put my feelings into what I draw and paint, and don't want to record it like a photograph, but more of an impression of what it's like to actually be there in a three-dimensional world with all the texture and the sights and the smells. I like to work in different media. So I was trained, most of my formal training was in oil painting. And then when I was 29 years old, I got very sick and I wasn't able to be around those chemicals anymore. So I moved away from oil painting and just focused more on drawing for many years, and then eventually watercolor. And then I think it was around 2010 or 11, I was offered a position at a university to be the oil painting instructor for students. And it was an old building that had terrible ventilation, and I thought, how am I going to go in there with my weak lungs and be around all of these chemicals in a ventilation system that's from the 1960s and not up to the job? And so I started investigating water mixable oil paints, which they're the same as traditional oil paints, but they add a third emulsifier so that you don't have to use the toxic chemicals. So I work in oil paints still, and they still are one of my first loves, but I also love drawing in charcoal and ink, and also painting in watercolor. The amount of time it takes me to finish an artwork varies depending on what I'm doing, what the size is, what the media is. I like doing the tiny paintings because I can do a quick sketch, I can do watercolor on top of it. I can finish those anywhere from 1 to 4 hours, I think was the longest, but that one was a very complicated scene. Whereas if I'm doing something larger, or if I'm painting outside and it's a larger oil painting, that's always going to take me longer. I know many friends who can whip them out very quickly, but it's a slower medium for me to paint in oils outside. I found there's this whole world of other artists who create miniature art, and as somebody who has wrestled with physical illness for all of my adult life, really, it's something that's manageable. I can have it in my pocket, and I can do a little sketch in an hour, and those types of things not only record something that's meaningful to me, but they make me feel good. It makes me feel that I'm being productive as an artist as well. What art is to me is ever-changing. I appreciate many different art forms. Some people think that I'm an art snob because I like to do realism, but I appreciate all genres, all different media of art. To me, art is something that moves me, usually in the application that the artist had. So I do love many of the realist artists like the Pre-Raphaelites. I love the Impressionists, but I also love many modern artists. It has to do with an appreciation of what the artist created, and that can mean many different things. But I can be moved by a song or a lyric or the work of somebody else. I think going to museums has been really important for me as an artist, to go see how other artists have created work. If I go to a museum and look at other landscapes or portraits, I'm completely moved and I want to go home and create. So I find the works of other artists to be highly inspirational as well. I think art, to me, I think art is life. Art is all around us. People who aren't artists maybe don't appreciate that, but the mug that you're drinking out of was created by an artist, the design. You know, your dinner plates, your forks, your knives. It's not just the pictures on your wall. The fabric on your couch, these were all things that are designed by an artist. So I think art exists everywhere.